CCP runs out of money. How will they spend the borrowed trillion? Officials seize 140,000 yuan in subsidies from sanitation workers over 4 years. It's all covered in today's China Truths. CCP runs out of money. How will they spend the borrowed trillion? On Friday, May 17, China's central bank began selling 1 trillion yuan, approximately $140.9 billion, in ultra-long-term special treasury bonds. This is equivalent to Xi Jinping suddenly borrowing a massive sum, raising the question of where he intends to spend it. The special nature of these bonds lies in their flexibility. The government can use them for any purpose without impacting the fiscal deficit or being restricted by budget rules. Additionally, the ultra-long-term aspect signifies a maturity of 10 years or more. This bond issuance has garnered significant attention, with observers closely watching how the funds will be utilized and who will ultimately hold these bonds. The Chinese Communist Party has only vaguely stated that the funds will be specifically used for the implementation of major national strategies and the construction of security capabilities in key areas. However, the CCP's true motive is likely to use this money to avert a financial crisis. First, it's obvious the CCP is out of money. Recent examples include rising water, electricity, and gas prices across the country. China's energy companies, all large state-owned enterprises, are increasing prices to boost government revenue. On the civilian side, on May 11, over 600 parents of students at Shuxing Primary School in Taizhou, Zhejiang, received a notice from the school. Due to the government's failure to pay the education service fee, the school's operation was severely affected. To ensure the normal operation of the school, they decided to temporarily charge each student a tuition fee of 20,000 yuan, about $2,765. This indicates that even local CCP governments are unable to fund so-called compulsory education. On May 15, the Nujiang Transportation Group in Yunnan issued a notice stating that the group had entered bankruptcy liquidation proceedings on August 31 of the previous year. With the approval of the transportation authorities, the company decided to temporarily suspend operations on all routes from June 1 this year. On May 16, due to Anhui Radio and Television Media Group's failure to pay suppliers, the suppliers staged a sit-in protest at the group's headquarters, demanding payment. Anhui Radio and Television Media Group is a large state-owned enterprise. However, their subsidiary Jie Shopping had already filed for bankruptcy on April 28 of this year and owed suppliers payments from January to April. Suppliers questioned why the company continued to accept shipments before bankruptcy, accusing them of fraud. Moreover, the protests over unfinished real estate projects, corporate bankruptcies, and rights violations are no longer news. Such incidents occur daily across China, reflecting the harsh reality of the CCP's lack of funds, from the central to local levels. Secondly, financial data reveals a similar story. On May 11, 2024, the People's Bank of China released financial statistics for April, showing a 1.4% year-on-year decrease in M1, a 1.42 trillion yuan, about $196.3 billion year-on-year decrease in social financing, and a 7.2% year-on-year increase in M2. To interpret these figures, we need to understand what they represent. According to the People's Bank of China, M1 refers to the narrow money supply, including cash in circulation outside the banking system and demand deposits of enterprises and institutions. M2 refers to the broad money supply, including M1 plus time deposits of enterprises and institutions plus household savings deposits. Social financing refers to the total amount of funds borrowed by the real economy from the financial system, excluding funds borrowed by the non-real economy, such as non-bank institutions. M2 and social financing reflect two sides of the same coin, describing the supply and demand sides of financial institutions, respectively. M2 represents the supply side, reflecting the overall money supply in society. Social financing represents the demand side, reflecting the overall demand for money in society. Impending financial crisis, CCP issues ultra-long-term bonds amid economic woes. April's financial data paints a worrying picture. While M2, broad money supply, increased, M1, narrow money supply, decreased. This means people are putting their money in savings accounts rather than spending or investing. This hurts the economy because less money is circulating. Usually, a larger social financing scale means a stronger economy. But now it's shrinking, which is a bad sign. All this suggests that the Chinese Communist Party's financial system is collapsing, and if they don't act fast, it could trigger a financial crisis. With the economy slowing down, companies and individuals are spending less and not investing. The CCP is trying to counter this by issuing national bonds. When people buy these bonds, they're essentially lending money to the government. The CCP can use this money to stimulate the economy. This is similar to their recent move to create a fund to buy unsold houses. If people don't buy them, CCP will. But what's the big problem that could cause a financial crisis? Let's look at the history of the CCP's special national bonds to understand it better. The CCP has issued these special bonds 5 times before, and this is the 6th. The gaps between these issuances have been getting shorter. Only 2 of these 6 issuances were for ultra-long-term bonds. The first was in 1998 during the Asian financial crisis, to help out state-owned banks. The second was in 2007 to fund China's sovereign wealth fund. The third, fourth, and fifth were mostly to pay off old debts. This year's issuance is for 1 trillion yuan of 20, 30, and 50-year bonds. They'll be released in stages from May to November, and more are planned for the future. Besides the ones for paying off debts, the main issuances were in 1998 to help banks during the financial crisis and in 2007 to start the sovereign wealth fund. The 2020 issuance was supposedly for COVID, but experts observe it was more about covering budget shortfalls. These past issuances show how important these so-called special national bonds are for the CCP. The fact that they're using them again now suggests that the top leaders know a crisis is coming. However, the CCP has been vague about how it plans to use the trillion yuan raised from its special national bonds. Here, this raises a significant question: where will the CCP spend 1 trillion yuan? Why does how this money is spent matter? Because how the CCP spends this trillion yuan at this critical moment tests the political acumen of Xi Jinping's leadership. If she sees new energy vehicles, lithium batteries, and photovoltaic products, or also called the new 3, as strategic in key areas, then spending to expand production while countries like the US and Europe are cracking down on their export is a waste of resources. Then there's chip research and development, which could be considered major national strategic implementation and key areas of security capacity building. However, spending 1 trillion yuan to achieve chip self-sufficiency is a pipe dream. The chip industry has always been a collaborative effort among multiple countries, and it's difficult to achieve on one's own. So what's left? The CCP has boasted of achieving 5% GDP growth this year, so one purpose is to spend money to maintain GDP growth, and the second is to prevent local government debt from exploding. According to the host from the Dayu News Insight program, the only way out in the future is for the central bank to buy local government debt. Although the central bank isn't a buyer of ultra-long-term national bonds and it's not about printing money, it's a gradual evolution. After all, the money the central bank gets from selling national bonds is still given to local governments, and in the end, local governments won't be able to pay it back, so isn't it the same as the central bank paying for them? Another question is, who will ultimately hold these ultra-long-term national bonds? Bloomberg estimates that commercial banks hold about 65% of China's national debt, with about half coming from the 6 major state-owned lenders. However, as the CCP plans to sell these bonds through public auctions in the interbank market, smaller regional lenders are likely to get a share. China's national bond market has been booming, especially for ultra-long bonds. The yield on 30-year bonds is 50 basis points lower than a year ago. Small lenders with ample deposits and a lack of investment opportunities are flocking in, raising concerns among regulators that they are speculating on bonds and exposing themselves to potential duration risk. Could this massive auction sow the seeds for a Chinese version of Silicon Valley Bank's failure? SVB's collapse last year provides a cautionary tale. Expecting interest rates to remain stable, the U.S. lender poured billions into long-term government bonds, but its massive bet ultimately went bust as the Federal Reserve embarked on a steep rate hiking cycle. While China's bond market is different from the U.S., it also experiences sell-offs. National bonds may become worthless paper. There are two main ideas floating around the market now. Some people think real estate is dead, while others believe that even though real estate is struggling, manufacturing is still strong. But if you look at the shrinking social financing numbers, the manufacturing is actually also in recession. The truth is, people aren't investing in real estate, and the government can only do so much. Even if the government doesn't increase spending, its debt will still grow because of all the necessary expenses and the cost of maintaining infrastructure. That's why prices are going up for everything from high-speed rail and subways to water, electricity, and gas. And that's just the first wave. Prices will definitely keep rising in different ways, like sneaky increases to taxes and social security payments. So, it looks like the economy will have to rely on foreign trade since no one, not even Xi Jinping, believes that domestic demand can drive growth. That's why the CCP is desperately denying overcapacity and trying to sell its products overseas. But relying on foreign trade has its problems. First, there's not enough demand. Sure, car exports have been getting a lot of attention, but cars are a major industry in many countries, and the US and Europe will likely put limits on Chinese cars. Even Japanese cars, which are considered very successful, couldn't save Japan's economy. And it's unlikely that Chinese electric vehicles will take over the entire world. So, car exports won't be enough to boost China's economy. Second, the usual economic tools aren't working. Foreign trade was only part of the CCP's economic growth plan, along with real estate and infrastructure. Now, real estate and infrastructure are struggling, and it's impossible to rely only on foreign trade, especially with the US and Europe distancing themselves from China. Third, even if China controlled all foreign trade, cars, and even semiconductors, it still wouldn't collect enough taxes to cover its costs. Issuing special bonds can stimulate investment in the short term, but much of that money is wasted or used to pay off old debts. This can't go on forever. The CCP is trying to do everything at once: stabilize the exchange rate, raise utility prices, increase taxes and social security payments, and maintain spending on things like housing. The result is a weakening manufacturing sector. Reliance on foreign trade is unreliable, thus Xi Jinping faces only two options. He could emulate the US by distributing money and transforming into a consumer nation, or he could push for technological breakthroughs, not just by creating lower-cost versions of existing products, but by achieving genuine advancements in high-tech. However, does the CCP still possess the talent required for such innovation? Notably, technology thieves who have been stealing tech worldwide have gained international notoriety in recent years. Actually, the first option, direct cash distribution, was already dismissed by Xi Jinping, while the second option, a dream Xi is chasing but is unattainable, highlights the CCP's doomed fate. Eventually, everyone must face the consequences of their actions. For the average citizen, it's advisable to steer clear of ultra-long-term national bonds, as it remains uncertain how long the CCP regime will last within the bond's term, and there's a real risk that these bonds could one day become worthless paper. Officials seize 140,000 yuan in subsidies from sanitation workers over 4 years. For 4 years, officials in Jiazdaki district, a frigid northeastern Chinese city, embezzled winter bonuses intended for sanitation workers, sparking significant online outrage. The implicated officials from the district's urban construction agency managed to steal a total of 140,850 yuan, approximately $20,400, designated for subsidies to aid workers enduring harsh winters with temperatures dropping as low as -45 degrees Celsius -49 degrees Fahrenheit. Despite the scheme being uncovered in February, the involved officials were merely warned by their party. The incident was initially brought to light by the WeChat account 9 Point Grocery Store on May 17, leading to a widespread condemnation on Chinese social media for the officials' greed and their lenient punishment. Among the officials was Dong Qingchuan, the deputy secretary and director of the party committee of the Jiajdaki District Urban Construction Comprehensive Service Center, along with several others in Heilongjiang Province. Sanitation workers in mainland China, often engaged as temporary workers by government agencies, are paid meager wages to perform tasks that regular staff avoid. These workers, who are vital in keeping the streets clean, contrast sharply with their office-based counterparts who enjoy more comfortable conditions. Jiajdaki District is notorious for its severe climate, with an average annual temperature of -1.2 degrees Celsius (29.8 degrees Fahrenheit) and winter temperatures that can reach -60 degrees Celsius (-76 degrees Fahrenheit). The 9-Point grocery store also highlighted that many of these sanitation workers are older, lower-class urban dwellers or rural women, who perform the most grueling tasks for the least compensation. According to available data, the winter operations subsidy for sanitation workers in the Northeast is approximately 15 yuan, about $2.07 per person per day. This small amount of money might seem trivial to staffed employees, but for the financially struggling frontline sanitation workers, it could significantly ease their hardship. Nonetheless, their winter operations subsidy funds continue to be diverted to staffed employees who already earn substantially more, leading to the question, where's the conscience in such bloodsucking? The Post further highlights a recent case in Yuan City, Hunan Province, where, out of 4 public rental housing complexes, very few truly needy families were housed, yet 766 units were occupied by public officials, including 28 households of high-ranking cadres. The Post bluntly stated, the incidents in Jiajdaki District and Yuan City, Hunan Province, are of the same nature, public officials taking away benefits that should belong to the lower classes. This is a great evil, and the severity of the incident cannot be measured solely by the amount of money involved. However, unfortunately, Dong Qingchuan only received a severe warning within the party, which did not have any substantial impact on him. The article also questioned, is there some kind of shady deal behind this? Chinese netizens also left comments on Weibo condemning it, believing that a mere warning for such actions by local officials is too light and calling for strict investigation of such corrupt officials. Some netizens questioned, are people who even embezzle the hard-earned money of sanitation workers really fit to continue being officials? Additionally, some netizens revealed that similar situations have occurred with high-temperature subsidies in southern cities. One netizen lamented, if power falls into the hands of ruffians, it will be a disaster for everyone. Don't forget to leave a comment in the section below to share your opinions on today's topic with us. Make sure to like and subscribe to see more interesting topics from China Truths.